Welcome to At Home with Debbie Rule, where you can freely ask questions, share stories, and learn more about how to have a happy home, family, and healthy relationships.
Well, good evening and welcome to At Home with Debbie Rule. We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to do a replay of one of our more popular shows that we did last February. To finish off the month of February, Loveuary, we're bringing back a popular show that we did on keeping the romance alive, especially when you're apart from one another. So we hope that you enjoy listening to this and reminding yourself again of just these few things that's important to do in our relationships to keep the love alive. Join me next week for the start of spring right here on At Home with Debbie Rule on 95.3 FM and KNEOradio.com. I look forward to being with you then.
Home is where the heart is, or is it? Home, family, and relationships can be a challenge. We have some answers for you right here on 95.3 and KNEOradio.com. Join Debbie Rule every Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. for insights on how to live life more abundantly. At Home with Debbie Rule is your opportunity to call in and get simple answers and share stories. At Home with Debbie Rule, Sundays from 6 to 7 on KNEL 95.3 and KNEOradio.com. Get the answers you need to find your heart at home.
New in 2022, have you or someone you've known been dealing with hurts, habits, or hang-ups? Are you looking for a place where others understand and admit that we all need a better way to live life? Heart of Texas Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program designed to help deal with past hurts, unhealthy habits, and hang-ups that keep us from successful living. Celebrate Recovery is not just for those dealing with addictions to drugs and alcohol. Celebrate Recovery is much more. Anger issues, insecurities, codependency, abuse, fear, anxiety, divorce. Celebrate Recovery helps us all find freedom, support, healing, peace, and new life. Heart of Texas Celebrate Recovery meets Thursdays at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Heart of Texas Event Center located at 804 San Angelo Highway. We look forward to you joining us this Thursday at 6 o'clock. What is in your future is so much better than what's in your past. The time is now to come and celebrate with us. Are you facing a crisis or has something unexpected happened to you? Maybe your home and relationships have been harmed by divorce, or do you have marriage, parenting, or blended family issues, career choices, financial issues, addiction, or just plain old I need to know how to do life better to avoid making so many bad choices? At Home Success Coaching is a great place to start. If you need someone to listen, someone to talk, to process your feelings, insight or advice on how to have a better life, At Home Success Coaching can help you out of a crisis or just help you stay on the right path and reach the goal of having the very best home, family, and relationships possible. At Home Success Coaching is a nonprofit organization and there is no charge for our services or programs that are offered. Visit at homesuccesscoaching.com. That's at homesuccesscoaching.com, helping one home at a time. Well, welcome back to At Home with Debbie Rule. This is Thoughts from Home. Keeping the romance alive while apart and during long-distance relationships are tough. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Being miles away from one another puts stress on the relationship because it requires an extraordinary amount of trust and dedication. It can be so frustrating to keep the connection you once had when the two of you were right beside each other, but fret not. There are lots of ways to keep the romance in long-distance relationships and while you're apart. It was not easy, but you can make it work. One couple had already been dating for 2+ years, seeing each other every day. Then he got a big boy job and had to travel, living out of the hotel for 2 brutal years. Their time being apart seemed like it would never end until one day they found out he had received a permanent job assignment. They are still together today, living under one roof. So I would say they had success with the whole long-distance thing. One tricky thing was keeping the romance. You cannot look one another in the eye, much less give hugs, kisses, or go on a romantic date. You have to be creative. Without romance, the relationship is basically only a friendship, which is not a bad thing, but many people crave something deeper. Here are some ways I have found for romance in a long-distance relationship and while you were apart to work. Sending good morning text messages. Well, that might sound a little bit corny, but success is shown in couples who almost always text each other good morning and good night. It's good to let your partner know that you're thinking about them when you wake up and when you go to sleep. If you're feeling super ambitious, ask a couple of thoughtful questions such as, how was your sleep? Or what are you going to do today? Plan date nights. Sure, you cannot sit in the same room, but maybe you're able to watch the same television show at the same time. Some of the most fun memories of long-distance dating can be curled up on the couch with your phone beside you, texting your boyfriend or girlfriend comments on the show you both are watching. You can send photos, texts during the day. In today's world, it's easy to communicate all day if you wish. Try to remind your lover you are thinking about them or her by sending an occasional photo or text something you're doing. I'm pretty big into kids, grandkids that is, so if I'm away with the grandkids, I will send photos of what we're doing on our adventure and let him know how much I miss him and look forward to seeing him when I return. So in return, he does send me pictures when I'm out and away and out of town. He'll send me pictures of his meals and a very empty house. He even did a whole big video when he had the kids and sent that to me so that I would yearn for coming home as well. Paying attention on phone calls. This might sound like, well, I do pay attention. Well, do you really? There is a tendency when you're on a phone call to be absorbed with what you're doing around, like the laundry or the dishes, or maybe watching TV. So for just a short amount of quality time, why don't you just put those distractions aside and just sit there, plant yourself in a chair, and give him or her your undivided attention? You would be surprised at the difference it makes. The quality of your relationship will improve greatly with just undivided attention. You can send a care package. When I traveled extensively with my job, I thought of this idea many times, and sad to say, I never sent a care package, but I know how blessed my husband is when I bring something home for him. Much more if I had taken the time to send it to him. I was bouncing around from different hotels, and time can be filled when you are the one away. But the empty house for those you leave behind? Well, bring something a little special. You can even hide your little gift, keeping the secret and having him find it on his own and bring it up later. Maybe leave it on his pillow. I departed a few times and left a gift on his pillow and also when I returned. It not only keeps things exciting, but most of all, it showed him I was thinking about him. Surprise him or her with a visit. For those of you who live in different towns and are in the dating stages, surprise him or her with a visit. This is one thing you need to be careful of, as you do not want to be inconvenient. Hosting someone takes time and planning, so do give them a little warning. And always have the next visit planned. Along with the occasional surprise visits, make sure you know when you will see one another again. It gives both of you something to look forward to, and you can count the days until you see your loved one next. If you're married, well, maybe coming home earlier than expected could be a real blessing to the loved one that you've left behind. Make sure to laugh together. Send him a joke. Send her a text of the funnies in the newspaper from that day that might remind you of something or someone important to both of you. There is an emotional connection formed when we laugh together, so keep that connection alive. Laughing is important. There's video chatting and FaceTiming with one another. This activity can be a lot of fun, or it can be quite frustrating when you're dealing with internet connections and phone services that won't cooperate. So whatever works for you at the time, and we encourage you to change it up here and there. It really doesn't matter how you do it, just as long as every once in a while you see your partner face to face. So try finding a good video app that you both can use. Send an email or snail mail love letter. Texting is great, but you can only say so much. A phone conversation is lovely, but you might not be able to articulate what you are feeling on the spot. Take time to put pen and paper and express exactly what you love about the other. And lastly, talk, text, and email often and romantically. Hopefully you are attracted to one another, so don't forget to express that attraction no matter what the distance is between the two of you. Romance is one of the hardest things to keep alive in a long-distance relationship or while you are apart, but do not forget about it. Whether it is a day, several days, or months before seeing one another, it is so important to express love and affection while apart. Sometimes you can get so caught up in your own life that you forget about the other person. This is understandable at times, but do a self-check throughout the day and ask yourself, have I communicated with my love? Long-distance relationships can be a true pain, but there is also the phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Remember that and push on. This has been Thoughts from Home. Stay tuned for more of At Home with Debbie Rule, your talk show about home, family, and relationships. We'll be back.
I love Metashare because they protect and respect life.
Metashare is community.
Metashare is affordable.
Metashare is biblical.
Metashare is uplifting.
Metashare is family.
Faithful.
Metashare is hope.
It's love.
Learn how thousands of Christians can help you save on your health care. Call 844-74-BIBLE. Metashare, affordable biblical health care. That's 844-74-BIBLE.
The Haven Family Shelter is a domestic violence and sexual assault shelter that serves men, women, and children who are victims of domestic violence and sexual assault in Mason, Menard, McCullough, Kimball, Concho, and surrounding counties. The Haven is dedicated to ending domestic violence and sexual assault. The Haven provides services such as 24-hour crisis intervention and hotline, 24-hour accompaniment for medical, law enforcement, or criminal justice. They provide legal advocacy, individual counseling, and the Haven is active in public education, prevention, and community awareness. Support your local domestic violence and sexual assault programs. Speak up about the abuse. Educate yourself and others. Help a friend in need and set an example. For more information on how you can help, call the Haven at 325-597-7644. Together, we can end domestic violence and sexual assault. Spring is almost here, and it's time to spring into a new look. Highlights, color, and the newest spring hairstyles, tanning, nails, and pedicures. Mandy's Hair Store has everything you need for your spring beauty needs. Don't wait any longer. Stop by today. Mandy's Hair Store, your full-service, family-oriented salon. So for your new spring look, go by Mandy's Hair Store, located at 404 East Commerce, or call 456-CUTS. Walk-ins are always welcome, and Mandy's Hair Store is a fully staffed salon ready to serve you. Welcome back to At Home with Debbie Rule, where we are concluding our series on how to keep romance alive. We started with Valentine's Night, doing songs and stories and dedications, and continued last week with some songs and dedications, and also just some insight on how to keep your relationship revived and fresh and new and connected. You know, it's so hard in today's world to stay focused on one another, but when you put effort into it, and every relationship takes effort and work, I hate to tell you that, but that is the truth. So joining me tonight on the program is my wonderful husband, Rudy. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, Rudy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, darling.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. A subject I always love talking about is marriage and family and relationships and romance and all of those things. I guess I'm a romantic at heart, you might say.
You love romance. Yes, you do. And I love you because you do.
I saw this sign yesterday, and I was very tempted to get it, but I didn't, and it said, "We dance in this kitchen." And I thought, how precious, because I know how many times we have danced in our kitchen.
If you don't have music in your kitchen, you need to get it because you spend a lot of time there.
Yes.
And your song comes on, you just turn the flame off and start dancing.
Or maybe you just dance whether there's music or not. You can make music, you know.
Yes.
We've done that many a times. But romance is important, and a lot of people think, well, that's just a physical relationship. That's what romance is, and romance is so much more than that. That is just a very, very small portion of what having a romantic relationship and a romantic connection with the person that you're with is. That's truly important, and it is very important, but it is not all. There is a lot more that goes into it, and so, you know, when you are in a situation like we're talking about tonight, where maybe you are apart because of work, or maybe you are in a long distance relationship because one of you've had to move here or there, and you're trying to get into one place, but for now you're separated, and you've got to put in a little bit more effort because you're not really coming home to that person. You're not seeing them in the morning, but you've got to put more effort into connecting with them. And I don't want to say more effort. I really shouldn't say that, although it is, but we should be certainly putting effort into the relationships that we are with day to day as well. And you can certainly apply all of these things that we're talking about in a long-distance relationship or a relationship while you're apart to your daily relationship as well, because it's very important to connect. As we said last week, that intimacy is emotional closeness, and you have to have emotional closeness in order for your relationship to be healthy and for you to have the longevity of the relationship, because otherwise everything just stays superficial and will eventually die if it doesn't go deeply rooted into your life and into your heart and your spirit and your soul.
Yeah, it'll die because it's not being fed and watered.
That's right.
You know, some people use euphemisms to refer to physical interaction in a way that, you know, is less controversial. And they'll say, were you romantic? And no, you weren't. You were physical. Were you intimate? No, you weren't. You were physical. You know, a man or woman that's looking for intimacy or romance, and all they get is physical, they're not being intimate and they're not being romanced. And I agree with what you said about romance. It's the smallest part of romance is physical. Mm-hmm. The rest is emotional and thoughtful and connecting. You know, I made several notes while you were talking. You were talking about reaching out to one another when you're apart, and that's connecting. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can never be apart. I have an aunt and uncle. He was career military, and he was so proud when he retired. He said, you know, the longest we've ever been apart is 6 weeks, and that only happened once. And they lived in the same house, but they struggled to connect. They had 4 kids. They were both career people. One worked day shift, one worked night shift to support that family. And, you know, they made an effort when they had time off together to reconnect. Mm-hmm. And people just don't understand it. We're not taught how to connect. And so, Debbie, you're doing a great service with this show, talking to people about how to be connected, how to be romantic, how to avoid pitfalls. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want to invest 10 or 20 years in a relationship and have no relationship at the end of that time. Mm-hmm. I wish everyone listening would just make it their passionate goal right now to have the absolute best relationship they can and work at it like they've never worked at it before. The reward is so great, and it is worth far more than the effort you put into it.
Well, if you're not connecting with one another and you're not growing together, then you are actually growing apart. And at some point, you won't know the person that you're with any longer. They will have experienced life every day as you have experienced life. And without that connection, without communicating with one another and sharing with one another, you have their experiences, your experiences. You don't bring those together. And then before you know it, you've each experienced life separately, and 20, 25 years down the road, you are separate. And a lot of people wonder why I'm not in love anymore, and it doesn't really have anything to do with love.
That's right.
You know, love is an emotion, and I had posted a memory on my Facebook page today that came up. I think it was from 10 or 12 years ago, which is hard to believe. Sometimes those pop up, but it was on marriage, and it just said that, when we're young couples need each other. Young couples want each other. You have that natural passion and that desire to want to be with each other. But the crucial time in a marriage is the mid-years, when you're raising a family and when you've got the stress of work and maybe you're apart like we're talking about tonight. And then the last years of marriage is when you need each other. So at the beginning, you want each other. At the end, you need each other. And in between there is a lot of care that needs to happen, because that determines where the beginning of the years go to the end. And a lot of times it's not something that we do intentionally, but we just get wrapped up in everyday life. And the thing that goes to the, back burner is the relationship. And, we've got to make that a priority to connect with one another, to keep those things alive. And if you are apart, it can be a little bit more difficult. But as we talked before, sending a text, sending a love letter through the mail, but just making sure that you stay connected. A couple should not ever go more than 24 hours or so without at least some type of connection. I understand that sometimes there's things that you can't avoid, and maybe you're in a situation where you can't talk or where you can't connect in some certain way through text or through some manner. But when you do that for a long period of time, you just become more and more disconnected. And so it is just really important. And even throughout the day, if it's someone that you're not apart from, even if you're just apart during the day, he's at work or you're at work and whatever, sending a quick text, sending something that just says, I love you, or, I love the way you and I will send sometimes, are you listening to KNEL, because there'll be a special song on there, just little things like that just lets the other person know that you're thinking of them. It's always drawing them back to the most important thing in your life, which is your relationship with God and your relationship with one another. And when we don't refocus daily, we can lose it.
Let me jump right on what you just said. Listening to the radio, you'll text me and say, turn the radio on, or I'll text you and say, are you listening to the radio? There are people out there, men and women, that think, well, that's silly. Why do you need to do that? She knows how I feel. He knows how I feel. Well, listen, you're the people we're trying to talk to get through your hard-headedness. Connecting is every time you think of that person, you let them know, I'm thinking of you right now. We love to send emojis, hearts and blowing kisses. And so I've learned, and I was the worst. I was of the attitude, you know how I feel. If it changes, I'll let you know. And you were starved. You were absolute. When you were talking about, young couples desire one another, older couples need one another, it's that time in between, and I thought that's the desert in a relationship. If you think of an old camel caravan back in Jesus' time, they would leave one city packed with all their goods, travel across the desert to another city. And so the beginning and the destination were wonderful, but in the middle was the hard work.
Yeah.
And what did they look for in the desert? They looked for an oasis. When you're in that time of, man, we're trying to put clothes on these kids, get them to school, keep them, fed, and doctors and this and that and everything else, you've got to find an oasis and take a break. You got to reconnect and recharge. That time of raising kids, for 30 years we had kids in the home, and it was hard.
And, so where we are today is, talking about connecting on a daily basis, on a, maybe morning and night basis if you're apart, or maybe 2 or 3 times a day. You don't want to go overboard. You don't want to smother someone. You don't want to be overly on the phone constantly, calling constantly. I mean, you don't want to be disruptive to someone's life, but there is a fine line between being disconnected and being disruptive. And you've got to find that balance in there. Am I being disconnected or am I being disruptive? And don't go overboard, but do show that person that you're thinking of them. And it doesn't take much. We have such great there are great means of technology. There's texting, there's email, there's FaceTime, there's video, all kinds of different video chats and things that you can use to stay connected with one another. And, those are great tools that we can use in our relationships. I just want to say this one thing about those great tools that we use in our relationship. They can also be used to be destructive. And just a word of caution to people out there that use some of those messaging apps and some of those things. Things can be tempting, and that doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you don't love the one you're with, or doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that the temptation is always out there, and you've got to be aware of that. And so decide now how you're going to deal with some of those things, because connection in a couple can be killed by the distractions that come. And some of those distractions can be very destructive to a relationship and to yourself. So, you have to be wise, and you have to be authentic and real and stay connected with your partner. But you also have to be aware of the dangers that are out there in some of the means of technology that you use. Because especially in a relationship where you are apart, or where there's a long distance relationship for a period of time, trust is very, very important. It is essential in a relationship. And I'll tell you, once it's been broken, it's very, very hard to get that back. So it can be, and it can be rebuilt, and you can be better than ever. But it does take time. It takes a lot of healing, and you really don't want to go down that road. So protect yourselves and be sure that you are exercising wisdom and caution in the things that you use to connect with one another, because there's certainly a lot of things out there that could be very dangerous to a relationship as well. And we have the open book policy. He has access to my email. I have access to his. There's nothing that's mine. It's ours. And that's the way a couple needs to look at things. It's not my phone. It's, I don't even have a passcode on my phone.
We have nothing that's password protected
that's
from
right.
the other.
That's
and we
right.
didn't allow our kids to have password protected.
That's right.
Anything.
Yes.
If I'm paying for it, it belongs to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that wide open transparency will make your relationship stronger than it's ever been. Nothing hidden, nothing that's not shared. Mm-hmm. Absolute, total, and complete open and transparent relationship.
Mm-hmm. And if trust has been broken, then that's the only road back.
Yeah.
Is total and open transparency. And you may feel like there's somebody out there that's saying, that's a violation of my privacy, and I am a unique individual and I deserve my privacy, and what you are saying is totally wrong. And what I'm saying is, if you have that attitude, it will eventually kill your relationship.
Why would you have that attitude?
Well, there's a lot out there in the world.
I'm just saying, I understand,
but there's a lot of things out in the world that tell people that you're going to lose your uniqueness. You're going to lose your individuality. You're going to, if you do these things, then, and a lot of people say, well, I don't need to do that for some man, or I don't need to, but the fact is that you chose to be in a relationship.
Well, don't marry somebody like that.
Well, that's another.
I want to be a couple.
That's another
I want to be a couple.
That's another
and I'll
program.
tell you, that's jealous people that can't be couples.
Well, that's another program. But let me just
get me started.
I'm going to finish up with this before we take our half break, and then I'm going to go back on the lighter side of things. I just wanted to share that about the destructive tendencies that can happen, because there's nothing worse than having trust be violated in a relationship and you try to rebuild that. It's very difficult and it can be done, but it's very hurtful and it's something that you don't want to have to do. So open book policy, transparency, especially if you're in a long distance relationship or while you're apart. There is nothing that feeds the mind of superstition worse than when you're apart from somebody and somebody being secretive or not allowing someone else to speak into their life. And if you choose to be a couple, then you should give each other permission to ask, to look, and to see an open book policy. And I'm going to end it right there for now. And we'll come back for the second half with At Home with Debbie Rule, where we're talking more about how to keep the romance alive. Your talk show about home, family, and relationships. Stay with us. We'll be back. The Haven Family Shelter is a domestic violence and sexual assault shelter that serves men, women, and children who are victims of domestic violence and sexual assault in Mason, Menard, McCullough, Kimball, Concho, and surrounding counties. The Haven is dedicated to ending domestic violence and sexual assault. The Haven provides services such as 24-hour crisis intervention and hotline, 24-hour accompaniment for medical, law enforcement, or criminal justice. They provide legal advocacy, individual counseling, and the Haven is active in public education, prevention, and community awareness. Support your local domestic violence and sexual assault programs. Speak up about the abuse. Educate yourself and others. Help a friend in need and set an example. For more information on how you can help, call the Haven at 325-597-7644. Together, we can end domestic violence and sexual assault. Are you looking for that unique gift that will be remembered forever? Heritage Flower Shop is a full-service flower shop, and whatever the occasion, birthday, anniversary, get well, weddings, or just because, every holiday is a time for beautiful floral bouquets and plants. Get the gift that expresses love, life, and sends a message without words. Gifts, flowers, and plants, and much, much more at Heritage Flower Shop, your full-service floral who can meet your needs. Stop by today at 300 North Bridge. Heritage Flower Shop for every occasion, not just funerals. Spring is almost here. Are you needing a break? Looking for that perfect adventure, a place to explore and find extraordinary accommodations and exquisite food and experience breathtaking sunsets? Well, Terlingua Ghost Town is an adventure for you. For anyone that's wanting that rustic adventure, or even that couple that wants that romantic getaway, there is no better place than Terlingua Ghost Town. You will find activities like hiking, exploration of the old mercury mines, or just relax on the famous porch in front of the trading store with the locals and their guitars. Terlingua Ghost Town is driving distance to Big Bend National Park, so spend the day and return that night to experience fabulous food and entertainment at the Starlight Theater Restaurant and Saloon. After dinner, enjoy the Star Deck at the Perry Mansion for the brightest stars in Texas, and then back to your sophisticated accommodations for a great night's sleep. For more information about accommodations, the trading store, or the Starlight Theater Restaurant and Saloon, visit BigBendHolidayHotel.com and thestarlighttheater.com. Book your spring break getaway today, the best spring break adventure of your lifetime. New in 2022. Have you or someone you've known been dealing with hurts, habits, or hang-ups? Are you looking for a place where others understand and admit that we all need a better way to live life? Heart of Texas Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program designed to help deal with past hurts, unhealthy habits, and hang-ups that keep us from successful living. Celebrate Recovery is not just for those dealing with addictions to drugs and alcohol. Celebrate Recovery is much more. Anger issues, insecurities, codependency, abuse, fear, anxiety, divorce. Celebrate Recovery helps us all find freedom, support, healing, peace, and new life. Heart of Texas Celebrate Recovery meets Thursdays at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Heart of Texas Event Center located at 804 San Angelo Highway. We look forward to you joining us this Thursday at 6 o'clock. What is in your future is so much better than what's in your past. The time is now to come and celebrate with us. You can now hear the rebroadcast of some of your favorite live programs on KNEL Podcast. KNEL has a variety of podcasts to choose from, including news, sports, talk radio, faith, and inspiration. For a list of KNEL podcasts, visit KNEL Radio homepage and look for podcast. Click on the podcast of your choice and listen, download, and enjoy. KNEL Radio News, KNEL Sports, Hillbilly Hits, At Home with Debbie Rule, and the Network Live. KNEL, making a difference with podcasts just for you. Are you facing a crisis or has something unexpected happened to you? Maybe your home and relationships have been harmed by divorce, or do you have marriage, parenting, or blended family issues, career choices, financial issues, addiction, or just plain old I need to know how to do life better to avoid making so many bad choices? At Home Success Coaching is a great place to start. If you need someone to listen, someone to talk, to process your feelings, insight, or advice on how to have a better life, At Home Success Coaching can help you out of a crisis or just help you stay on the right path and reach the goal of having the very best home, family, and relationships possible. At Home Success Coaching is a nonprofit organization and there is no charge for our services or programs that are offered. Visit at homesuccesscoaching.com. That's at homesuccesscoaching.com, helping one home at a time. Welcome back to At Home with Debbie Rule, where we are talking about how to keep romance alive, especially if you are apart or you're in a long-distance relationship. Might take a little bit more effort, but certainly all of these things that we do to connect with one another while we're apart are things that we should be doing even when we're together. And so we're continuing that. We're going to wrap up that series of how to keep the romance alive tonight. We'll start some new things for spring. Great things coming up here. Some giveaways that we'll be giving away. And so looking forward to March. And also Above and Beyond, we'll be giving away our February Above and Beyond Award tomorrow morning during the KNEL radio morning show. So be sure that you tune in between 8 and 9 tomorrow morning and listen, because there'll be the announcement of the February recipient of the Above and Beyond Award. We want to thank everyone that sent in their nominations, and certainly we'll continue for March. So if your person did not win, we will continue having them as a nominee for the next month, and we will add more to that. So thank you again to everyone out there that has nominated, and for all of you out there that are making a difference in our community by going above and beyond, doing just things on a day-to-day basis to make our community better, make things just happier, better place to live, maybe with just your smile and sweet hello. But whatever it is that you're doing to make things better, we want to say thank you to you. So tune in tomorrow, 8 to 9 a.m. for the KNEL Morning Show, and we'll have the announcement of the February Above and Beyond recipients. So looking forward to that. And back to romance. Mr. Rule?
Yes.
Would you say that when you are apart from one another that it is a little bit more difficult to stay connected than it is when you're together in the same house?
It can be. I want to tell a little story about a couple that we were counseling years and years and years ago, and we were having basically everything we've said in the first half of the program tonight. We'd said that. And he comes to us with his wife, and he says, I travel a lot, and she's having a real hard time with it. And I explained to her that when I'm away, I'm working, and I'm focused, and I compartmentalize, and it helps me to stay focused. And she wants me to call her and talk to her and, connect with her like y'all are talking about, but I work better when I focus. And so we told him to take his organizer, because he was one of those organized people that went by with a day runner, a day planner, and put in there like 2 or 3 times a day, call your wife, reach out to her, let her know you're thinking of her, pick her up something as you're going through the airport that makes you think of her. And so other people heard that, and they said, boy, that's not very romantic if you have to put it on your calendar. Well, I'll tell you what, it was a big improvement. Mm-hmm. It's part of your job, if you want to look at it that way. Mm-hmm. You have got to tell the people that are important to you, you're important to me. It comes under the heading of appreciation. I appreciate you, and this is how I'm going to show you. You know, a company has an awards banquet once a year. I'll tell you what, not many wives are going to hang around for an awards banquet once a year. They need to know daily, regularly. And so do husbands. This is goes both way with men and women. Women can be very career-focused and job-focused, and they want to be competitive, and they think this is the way that you do it. And, you know, if you're, Debbie, you said it perfectly. If you're not growing together, you're growing apart. And, folks, that is true. It's true. It's true. And if you're not receiving that tonight, just make up your mind. You're going to listen and not grow apart. You're going to grow together.
You know, early on in our relationship, you traveled a lot. And so I was the one that was at home and then, you know, raising kids while you were gone. And, you know, that was a difficult time in our life. And then in the past 10 years, 12 years, the roles were reversed. And I was traveling quite a bit and gone 4 or 5 times out of the week, and 4 or 5 days out of the week, home maybe 1 or 2, and then gone again 4 or 5 days out of the week. And it was a challenge because, you know, I understand what you're saying. You know, I didn't understand you when you were, you know, you had to work while you were away. You were just, you had something you were doing, but the person that's left at home, maybe not as busy as the person that's off doing something. And, you know, I would be at work and I would see, you know, 14, 15 hours days of teaching or doing,
Planning,
you know, performances and things
managing.
like that. And then, you know, hit an airport right after a 14-hour day and catch that late night flight or, you know, a 6 o'clock red eye out to the next city. And you really don't think, because you're moving at such a fast pace and you're exhausted, you know, I have to say that. But if you don't make the point to connect, you know, even if it's just, you know, I'm boarding my plane right now, I love you, I'll talk to you when I land, you know, whatever it is, it can be sent so quickly, just to let someone know that, you know, especially I'm okay, you know, and I'm looking forward to being home, or I'm looking forward to, you know, the next 2 days going by quickly so I can get home. But, you know, it's very important that we communicate with one another. And if you're a person out there that says, well, I'm not a phone talker, I don't like to talk on the phone, and I don't really like to talk much, and I'm not into texting, you know, I'm just, you know, that's just not me.
That's not the way I am.
You know, grow in it. That's all I can say. If you're the one that likes to talk too much, pull back and let the other one say something. And if you are one that says, I don't like to talk, I'm not a texter, then you need to grow in that, because there needs to be a balance there between the two.
If you were employed and you told your boss, oh, I just don't do that, how long would that last? And this relationship is far more important than your work relationship.
Yeah.
Do the work you need to do. It's why I ask men, are you man enough to be married? There's work involved here. And men like to let the women do all the work, and women are tired of it.
And I remember, you know, sitting in a hotel room and texting you and saying, are you watching this? Or, you know, I'm watching this or whatever. And just, you know, going back and it's like you're there together, but you're really not together.
And you got to know my coworkers to where, I could tell you stories on them and we'd laugh. The one guy that looked like a road runner, we made fun of him all the time. He's not listening.
You made fun of him.
He doesn't know. We saw a road runner one time, and I said, there he goes, and you laughed. You did.
I did laugh, but anyway, that was terrible. Please forgive us. Anyway.
But you knew my coworkers and had never met them, because I would tell you about their personalities and what they say, what they do. I would break down my entire day for you, because Debbie had quite an imagination, and she would go crazy with her imagination if I didn't do that. And I had to learn, and I was so oppositional to that early on, but whenever I found out the difference it made in our relationship, I was glad to do it.
Well, a woman's greatest need is for security.
Yeah.
And, that may not be for a man. A man's greatest need is, to be respected and honored. And so through that connection, you both get your needs met. And so security, of course, it's very important for a woman. And so you need to understand that there are things that you are responsible for in a relationship that you need to do for your spouse. And if it's something that you're not comfortable with, well, then grow in it. Get a book, listen to a podcast, on how to get better
Grow
about
in it.
that. Self-help. There's a lot of podcasts and a lot of books and a lot of things that you can listen to and read.
Men, if your dad never told you had to work at marriage, well, God bless him. He should have. You've got to work at marriage. Mm-hmm. And just because you weren't told that when you were younger, I'm telling you right now, you've got to work at it.
Every relationship takes work, and especially the marriage relationship, because there's so much opposition that comes against it. Life is happening all around you, and it never stays the same, and that is the challenge right there. And so if you're in a situation where you are apart from one another, and maybe you're in a long-distance relationship because one of you's had to move for a job situation, there's been people that have lost jobs all over the country due to COVID-19, and even before that, just the economy. And so if you didn't want to uproot your whole family, and, you can't sell and buy homes sometimes, you're just in a position where financially and other, reasons, you've got to just maintain being apart for a while until you can make it work. And that can be difficult. And so if that is you, don't sacrifice your relationship. It can work. It will work if you put the effort into it, if you understand how important it is to stay connected to one another. And it will even, even if you're one that says, I don't need that, the other person might need that. I don't need that. Do it for the other person. But what you're going to find out is that you do need it. You do need that connection. And when you start getting that connection, and that connection is being built, when it's not there, you will miss it. Because we weren't created to be alone like
you
that.
You do need it. You both need it.
Yes.
And when people start complaining and whining, and whenever couples won't make the sacrifice for each other, it just really frustrates me. I was just, while you were talking, thinking, if you think you've got it hard with job loss, and maybe one spouse has to go work over here and you don't want to go over there because your family's not there, whatever your excuse is, you need to watch the movie Grapes of Wrath. You talk about hardship, but people worked together and they stayed together, and their life together was more important, and they made sacrifices. So nobody told you life was going to be easy, so quit being a whiner and do what you have to do to make your life better, and be the person that the other person in your life thought you were going to be, and that you said you would be.
If you're the one that's kind of struggling with that, the one that you're with, maybe it's a little easier for them. Help them. You can pull somebody, you can draw somebody in. And this is something that you need to, instead of being offended or upset because they don't do it, draw them in. Draw them in.
That's such a
draw
good point.
them in. Draw them in. And don't do it in an obsessive way, but
That's
just
right.
draw them
That's
in.
right.
Just keep them drawn in. Just a little connection here and a little connection there. And they'll be looking for it. It's like a little drip of water in the summer when there's no rain and there's nothing and you're parched. A little drip of water that comes, and then you're waiting for it. Before you know it, you're waiting. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And so you can draw someone in. You can help someone grow. That's why we're put together.
I want to say this. You just made me think of it. There's a book that made a huge difference in our relationship called Marriage on the Rock, written by Jimmy Evans back in probably the 80s. And it's got different chapters in there that talk about destructive husbands, destructive wives. And one of the teachings that he brought to us was to focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. Make yourself better. Mm-hmm. Don't tell your spouse or the insignificant person in your life how they need to change. You find out how you need to change and be better. That draws them in. Mm-hmm. And so when we would teach, we would give people this book. Well, what if they won't read it? And so, that was always the complaint. So here's how you get somebody, here's how you draw somebody in. It's what I'd tell people. I'd said, you read in the book, if you're the wife about destructive wives, you find yourself in there, and you take it to him and you say, read this and tell me if that sounds like me. Well, he'll do that, and then you've got him reading the book. And then you subtly share, it's got a section in there on destructive husbands too. And you've got him reading the book, and now he's curious, and now he's seen you in the book. He's seen you be open to, hey, I want to be better. Help me be better. And I tell men this all the time. You want a better wife, take her to church. And women try to get their husbands to church all the time. Tell your husband, hey, you want a better wife, take me to church, because that's a good place to get changed for the better.
Yep. Well, and you're surrounded
But
with
you can draw them
influences.
in. Be creative. Don't give up. Don't make excuses. Don't be a whiner. Do something.
Yeah. Relationships are not going to just nurture themselves. You have to put in the work. And you think, well, if I'd have married the right person, then there wouldn't be all this work and there wouldn't be so much struggle. Sometimes with the right person, there's even more struggle.
Well, but
and
that person
more.
wouldn't marry you is the other side of that story.
Well, that's true. Health marries health and unhealthy marries unhealthy. But this is the thing. Sometimes there's more opposition that comes against a couple that is truly,
People
really
want to
meant
make
together.
excuses instead of work.
That's right. And so you've got to work at it. It doesn't mean that you married some dud out there and that you got the worst person on this earth that you could have ever picked and now you're stuck with them. What it means is that you've got to work to stay connected with each other, regardless of what's going on in your life, whether you are together or separated by a geographical distance or whatever the case may be. You've got to make it work. It's up to the two of you to sit down and say, this is what we need to do to make our relationship work, and be adults. Talk about things. Sometimes it's hard because you're and it's uncomfortable, but you've got to train yourself to be open and honest and to lay things out there and to be transparent, because what happens when you don't do that is resentments creep in. And resentments will be the biggest thing that will keep you from being able to be connected, because it's like a wall. Think of a resentment as a brick. And every resentment is a brick, and you're building this wall. And
mortar.
Before you know it, there's a wall between you and the person that you're with. And it will come tumbling down because you're
fall over on
there is no mortar. That's right. So, be careful of that. Don't allow resentments to creep in. Talk about things and find a healthy way that you can.
It's as
talk
easy
about
as
things.
saying, I don't like it when you do that.
Yeah. And I love the sandwich approach, or the whatever you want to call it, the Oreo cookie, however you want to explain it. Beginning with affirmation, telling someone, this is really what I appreciate about you. I love this about you. But when you do this, it makes me feel insecure. Or when you do this, it really hurts my feelings.
I don't like it when you do that.
And I don't like that. So, but I want to tell you, I love you. I'm committed to you. I'm never, I'm not going to leave. But I just needed to tell you how I was feeling, because I don't want that to start festering inside of me. And so you start with something that's positive, and you lay in there,
and that's important,
something that you need, and you reaffirm.
If y'all agree that, hey, we're going to have a relationship where we can share how we feel, yeah, that's the kind of relationship I want, yeah. Well, if you come in and you're constantly complaining, pretty soon it's like, ugh. Mm-hmm. But if you say, you know what, you're wonderful, and I love you, you clean up my car, you wash it, you help me with the house, but, when you do this, I don't like that. But then, there's a lot. That's so important. It's so important to appreciate one another. And then you can say, but when you do this, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. When you go a week without a shower, I don't like that. As an example, not that that's either one of us. But
well, it's just important to affirm one another, and to, it's a lot. People will remember the negative things a lot more than they will the negative things, the positive things. You can say a million positive things, and somehow people will focus on the 5 negative things. And so don't make it negative. Make it constructive criticism or constructive thoughts that you have, things that you need to lay out there, and put it between things that affirm the person you're with, and letting them know that you're committed to them, that you love them, that you appreciate them. This is what I do love about you, but this is one thing that I really need to have improved. And, and give them the permission to say the same to you. And that's the thing, is giving each other permission to speak into each other's lives.
So how many years did it take for you to get me to stop being sarcastic?
Have you stopped? We're almost out of time. That's another program, too.
Week.
That's for next week. That's right. Certainly don't want to have any sarcasm. But anyway, you know.
Boo, sarcasm.
That's right. And I'll leave it with this. If you're both not laughing, then it's not funny. And I
laugh
remember,
enough for both of us.
I remember telling that to Rudy years ago. You know, honey, if we're not both not laughing, it's just really not funny.
We just had a different sense of humor.
Well, that might
We
be
still
true.
do.
That might be true. But anyway, so connecting with one another.
I love you.
I love you too, baby. You know, connecting with one another is really important. And so if you are apart from one another, don't be depressed. Don't think that things can't work. If you've got some things you need to repair, if you've got to go sit down and have a talk, if there's something that you need to lay out there, you need to do it. It's okay. It will all be all right. But you've got to make the conscious effort that you're going to stay connected with one another and that you're going to put the effort into the relationship that you need to do in order to make your relationship work. If you don't put the work into the relationship, who is going to? And, you know, one person certainly can't do it, but one person can start. And when one person starts, the other person follows the lead. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Somebody's got to be the starter.
Somebody's got to be the starter, and then you'll both finish strong. Wouldn't you say?
What are you getting your wife for Christmas, Booster Cables?
With that. I'm telling you, I'm going to have to take him home.
It's Sunday night in the heart of Texas.
It's Sunday night in the heart of Texas. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and inviting us into your home. We love hearing from you and spending Sunday evening with you, sharing our thoughts about home, family, and relationships. From our home to yours, I'm Debbie Rule.
And I'm in trouble.
And we'll see you next week at 6 p.m. right here on KNEL 95.3 FM and KNELradio.com. Also, ask Alexa to play KNEL 95.3 FM at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. You can find us there and on the TuneIn app. We hope you guys have a blessed week. We look forward to being with you again next week. You guys be blessed.
Thank you for joining us today for At Home with Debbie Rule. You can be at home with Debbie Rule every Sunday on KNEL 95.3 FM and KNELradio.com. Follow At Home with Debbie Rule on Facebook and podcast on iTunes. See you next week at Home with Debbie Rule for more insights on home, family, and relationships.